Hello, my name is Melissa, and my mentee is Ishani S. We've had a really good time getting to know each other over the past few months. Ishani is very inquisitive. She wants to know how everything works, and actually really makes me think a lot, which I love. She came into this with her own project idea, and basically has laid out her entire vision and helped move the project along using her own vision, which has been really cool to see. And she is interested in a lot of different things. Her passions right now are economics and political science, and she's also, I would say, very good at problem solving and very interested in just learning about how the world works. So here's Ishani.
So my mentor is Melissa Myers, and she works in design assurance for medical device companies and is currently working at Varian Medical Systems, which is a company that manufactures radiation therapy machines. So it's helped a lot of people in their cancer treatment. And I was actually lucky enough to visit Varian Medical Systems, and it has taught me a lot in learning about how code can be implemented into real-world scenarios and to help a lot of people and save a lot of lives. And in Melissa's free time, she enjoys triathlons and music. So my project idea was to create a website that tracks data from QR codes and essentially serves as a tag for people who might lose something, so it helps them keep track of it. So since I had very little coding experience prior to Magic, I utilized Code Academy in order to have a stronger foundation in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. As I was working more on my project, I also used WW3 schools in order to find specific aspects of JavaScript and HTML in order to aid my project specifically. So we ran into some challenges in which IDE was best to use and how to create unique QR codes. So the biggest thing that I learned from working on this project is learning how to edit my own code when it didn't give the result that I expected. So I found it really fun and really engaging in order to go back into my code and see, okay, where did I go wrong? Did I miss a semicolon somewhere? Did I forget to define a specific variable? And it was kind of like proofreading grammar, but in my opinion, a little bit more fun. And another highlight is learning how to integrate different languages of code into the same file. So as I mentioned before, I was using both HTML and JavaScript in creating this project. But in order for the HTML to work, it would have to know what some of the JavaScript files are doing. So I would have to use a tag that would incorporate some JavaScript into the HTML file. So most of my file names were in HTML, but it still had a lot of JavaScript incorporated in it. And another challenge that I had was to find the best way to store the QR code data. I apologize for the typo on the slide. So this is a storyboard that I created initially, and it pretty much laid out my vision of what I wanted the website to look like in the end. So the top square is the homepage that I wanted it to look like in the end. So on the top, it would give a brief description of the QR codes and what they would be used for, and on the bottom, it would give the user an opportunity to create their own account with the username and password text box. So once they created their own account and signed in, they would be redirected to an account page, which the layout is shown at the bottom square. And what that would have is a box on the left-hand side, which would allow the user to create a tag for the QR code that they want to create, so basically naming it, and then the QR code would show up on the bottom. And on the right-hand side, it would show the account's profile settings, and if someone were to scan the QR code that was created, a message would show up on the bottom right-hand corner saying, hey, someone scanned your QR code. This is how you could reach out to them, or this is how they can reach out to you. So I used the Atom app in order to write most of my code, and I hope this is easy enough to read, but essentially what this code would do is create the QR codes from the data that I will show in the next slide. So this is what the QR codes would look like. It doesn't have the CSS elements in it yet, but that will show up in a couple of slides. So essentially what I did with my code is I used the random generator in order to create 5 random numbers. And what this would do is it would take the first 2 numbers and create a unique QR code based off of them. Since the QR code, I used an open sourced QR code generator. And it would make QR codes based on the first 2 numbers listed there. And basically, below each QR code, it just verifies that the numbers match the list that's on the bottom. So this is the same page with the CSS elements added to it. So it would essentially have a teal background and a box with an orange border. And the way that I was able to create the teal background is through the background color element shown on the top and the background color shown on the bottom. So the RGB would just define a specific color by saying how many parts are red, how many parts are green, and how many parts are blue. And the H1 tag, as seen a little bit farther down, would define the text inside as black and would show what the font is and just make that border orange. So this is the code that would be used in order to create the username and password boxes. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to figure out how to take in the information that the user would put in there and store that data, but that is something that I would definitely like to do in my future work. So a couple other things that I would do in my future work is try to figure out how to edit the amount of QR codes that a person would be able to make. So have the user figure out, okay, do I select how many QR codes they want to make instead of having it predefined as 2, and also figuring out how to set up the chat feature. Overall, this experience has truly been magical for me because it gave me an environment in order to approach computer science in a project-based environment instead of just learning coding for the sake of coding. And it taught me a lot more applications on how to use computer science aside from just the CS field. And that is a skill that I would truly cherish for the rest of my life. So thank you for that.